Thursday edition of lcpioneers.com live, presented by PioStream, as we are with you 4 days a week, Tuesday through Friday, 11:30 a.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live. You can find us most easily by just typing in lcpioneers.com/live, and it'll take you to our Facebook Live page, keeping you connected with student athletes, coaches, alumni, and different members of our Lewis and Clark College community. Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Goff. I am the play-by-play voice and director of athletic communications for Lewis and Clark. We are the Pioneers, based out of Portland, Oregon, and a member of the Northwest Conference, a 9-team conference with institutions from throughout Northwest Oregon and the state of Washington. And we have 19 intercollegiate athletics programs competing at the NCAA Division III level, over 430 institutions at that level, a chance for our student athletes to compete on a national stage. And of course, in non-pandemic times, a chance with our overseas study program at Lewis and Clark College, our student athletes and students alike, a chance to experience global, experiential liberal arts education. And we've kept you connected since the last week of March, and now we're into the middle to late stages of January. Spring 2021 semester has started this week, so we'll have a chance to talk to our guest today, former men's basketball player, but now a coach on the staff of women's basketball at Lewis and Clark. We'll chat with Scott Pisapia and see how things are going, not only with the start of spring 2021, but what the team is up to in terms of without competition for 2020-21, as men's and women's basketball and football will not compete for Lewis and Clark this academic year. You know, what is the team looking like? What kind of resilience has coach seen in the team? And then, of course, where the spark to coach, the urge to coach, came from for Pisapia, who played for the Pios back in the earlier part of the 2010s. We invite you to get involved with us. You can do so with Facebook Live comments, of course. If you have a question for Scott or you have a suggestion for a future guest, we always love to see you chat away in our comments. Please be sure to do so. Or, of course, you can email us anytime, sports@lclark.edu. We are also on Twitter and Instagram. You can find us on both of those platforms at LC Pioneers. And we continue to update you on all things related to COVID-19 in regards to athletics. You can go to lcpioneers.com and click on the COVID updates page. You can get there directly by typing in lcpioneers.com/COVID. And whether it's NCAA related, Northwest Conference related, or something that's impacting athletics because of state or county guidelines, we'll post it there first. And then, of course, we do have a link to the Lewis and Clark College COVID-19 page as well. All the updates that you need to have available there. And then for the sports currently slated to compete in spring 2021, we do have the schedule posted by clicking the Games tab at the top right next to the live button at lcpioneers.com. And our YouTube playlist continues to get updated. You can find this link in the lcpioneers.com fan zone, but if you go straight to youtube.com/lcpios, you can see our entire playlist of shows dating back to the last day of March 2020. We invite you to do so at youtube.com. All right, let's get our guest in here, assistant coach for Lewis and Clark women's basketball and a former men's basketball student athlete at Lewis and Clark. We're proud and thankful to welcome in Scott Pisapia to the show. Hey, Coach, it's good to catch up with you and have a chance to visit with you for the first time on lcpioneers.com live. And I mentioned it, we're into the first week of spring 2021. Believe it or not, off winter break, off an odd fall, I suspect, for you and your team. Give us an idea just how you're doing with everything that's going on right now.
Hey, Ryan, thanks for having me. I'm doing pretty well, given the circumstances. I am spending a lot of time in my apartment. So my apartment's about as tidy as it'll ever be. And I'm on a lot of Zoom calls. And then from there, it's just a lot of check-ins via phone and over Zoom. Just started this week with PE classes. So had my first PE class that I led yesterday, which is circuit training. Which will be a little bit unique over Zoom, but overall, I'd say I'm doing pretty well.
Well, and we appreciate the resilience that you and the coaching staff at Lewis and Clark certainly has been giving us over the course of fall 2020, and that might be the place to start, right? Over the fall, a lot of uncertainty, and the winter sports are kind of in that in-between situation where you start practice in fall. Most of the competition happens in the spring semester, but you get started in the fall. What was it like for you and your team trying to figure out what exactly was going to happen in the fall 2020 semester?
Right. It definitely was weird. It was the most interesting, season, quote unquote, that I've been a part of since coaching since I graduated in 2013. It was just day to day. It was a lot of okay, let's take care of what we can take care of, control the controllables, and then just, attack each day the best we could. I would say more than ever, this fall season for us was just about mental health, and more than like trying to get better, which we of course were, and like trying to get in shape. Those things are great, but I would say more than anything, it was constantly just trying to make sure that our team was together and checking in on each other, and just in a good mental space with everything that was going on.
And you have senior leadership with Hannah Martin on this team. We've had her on the show before, and it was great to see not only the people that showed up to support Hannah when she was on our show and make comments in Facebook Live, but just to be around Hannah as a transfer junior in her first season with the Pios last year. Describe what Hannah has meant to the program and her role through all the uncertainty as the only senior on the team.
Hannah Martin is incredible. She came to us going into her junior season, and it feels like we've had her in our program for 4 years. She's just made a huge impact, not only on the basketball program, but I think just in the school as a community altogether. Um, she's one of those people that whatever field she goes into, which right now she's leaning towards going into law school. She's going to be an incredible employee someday. She's the type of person that I would want to work with. Maybe someday I can get her to hire me to do something. Um, she's just awesome. She has been leading networking calls for our program over the past, since COVID hit, and she's been able to get an amazing array of professionals to come speak to our team. And each time the person that's on the call, the professional on the call, they always mention how it was because of Hannah's, leadership and being able to reach out to them and say the right things, that is why they jumped on the call with us. She's the type of person that you need in a program. She's really great with our underclassmen, kind of showing them the ropes, and telling them what to expect in their coming years. And on the court, she's a monster. She's a double machine. She can give you 20 points and 10 rebounds every single night. I believe she led our conference in free throw percentage, right around like 88%. She's just an amazing all around player and person, and I'm super excited for her future.
We're talking to Scott Pisapia, assistant coach with women's basketball on lcpioneers.com live. And we mentioned Hannah as a tremendous leader, and I'm sure teaching as much as one can teach without any competition. Describe the team that you have then returning when competition for women's basketball resumes in 2021-22. What do you like about this team?
Yeah, so next season we're going to bring back a big senior class. We have 8 current juniors that will be seniors, and that group is kind of the majority of the team. It's the core of the team. From there, we'll have 2 juniors, we'll have 6 sophomores, and we will bring in 2 incoming freshmen. And so it's going to be something that I'm not used to at Lewis and Clark so far in my 3-year coaching career, which is it'll be senior led. We've had really small senior classes for the majority of the time I've been here. And it's going to be exciting to finally have a team that's older. It's a group that, Coach Christina and I always joke about, that we think we have the, national championship when it comes to team chemistry. And I'm super excited to see how that chemistry, carries over to the court. We're going to have a good mix of types of players. We have some strength down low. We have some good shooting, and we have some playmakers. We have a lot to prove. We haven't necessarily, proven what we think we can do in the win-loss record so far in the past couple of years, but I'm excited to see where, our growth on and off the court will lead us next season.
Now, we're going to get to your time as a men's basketball student athlete, but you make this transition into coaching. What was it about the opportunity to coach with Christina, the opportunity to come back to your alma mater and be part of a program as an assistant coach with women's hoops?
Yeah. So I started an academy in Longview, Washington, my hometown, with a buddy of mine. It's called Roots Academy, and I started with Josh Wilson. And we were coaching, on the AAU circuit. I think I was coaching a 16U girls basketball team at the time. And I kept seeing Christina at tournaments, recruiting players, and I was coaching in the tournaments as an AAU coach. And then one tournament, she came up to me and just mentioned like, "Hey, I'm becoming the head coach at Lewis and Clark. I'd be interested in hiring you." We had a great relationship um, when we went to school together at Lewis and Clark. We started and finished at the same time, and so we had a friendship already built. I think she respected the way that I coached during the AU games that she saw. She knew my character and my background, and so it seemed like a perfect fit. I was also, in a time where I love Longview, Washington, my hometown, but I was ready to move on to a bigger city, and I was craving Portland. I loved my time in Portland. That was one of the big reasons I came to Lewis and Clark, was because of the city. And so when she called and said, "Hey, I'd like to offer you the job," it was a no-brainer. It seemed like the perfect timing, the perfect fit with the perfect person, and I just couldn't resist.
You mentioned Portland, right? And a big reason why many of our student athletes choose Lewis and Clark, and it sounds like you were kind of in that boat. When you look back at the origin story and what led you to becoming a Pioneers student athlete, what were some of the things that came together? Describe Portland if that was such a big factor too.
Yeah. So I wasn't like heavily recruited. I wasn't getting calls left and right. And to be completely frank, I didn't know about Lewis and Clark until they reached out to me. I was playing at a tournament in Scappoose, and former at the time assistant coach Denari Foreman was there recruiting another player and just happened to see me on court too. From there, I started receiving phone calls from Coach Foreman and head coach Bob Gaylord, and I started doing my research on the program, on where it was located, on the school itself, and just fell in love with it, all of it. The campus, I mean, everyone talks about it, just how beautiful the campus is, and if you haven't taken a walk around the campus, I would recommend to do so. The campus sells itself. I love Portland. I love that the campus is tucked away, 5 to 10 minutes up into the forest, but with a quick drive, you're downtown watching Damian Lillard hit threes in the Moda Center. And so I like being able to do both. You have the quiet, but you also have the city. You have great food. I feel like you get the best of both worlds being at Lewis and Clark, and so that was a big selling point to me. It was also an hour from home, so my parents could come watch every game, which was a big selling point. And I could go home and do laundry if I needed to. Um, and I fell in love with the program and the coaching staff. They came and had lunch with myself and my family in Longview, and they gave me the spiel. And Coach Gaylord is a legend. He's a Hall of Famer, and so it was an honor to have him in my living room asking me to play for him. And so I was sold.
You're watching lcpioneers.com live, presented by PioStream. We're with you Tuesday through Friday, 11:30 a.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live. And our guest is assistant women's basketball coach and class of 2013 graduate from men's basketball, Scott Pisapia. And you reflected on the coaching staff and some of those memories of being recruited when it came to the competition and having a chance to put the ball on the floor. What were some of your most memorable, or I should say, not necessarily memories like specifically, but what do you think about when you reflect on being a student athlete at Lewis and Clark?
Yeah, I think about a couple things. The first thing that comes to mind is when I first got there the first week, I came in with a class of five, I believe, and it was all guards. And they were really good guards. And I thought I was pretty good. I was all league in little old Longview. But these guys were like next level. I remember one of the freshmen that I came in with, Drake Green, from Oakland, California. We went in the gym and he had jeans on, and he just went up and windmilled it with jeans on. And I was thinking, I think I'm in for a long day with this group. And so my freshman year was actually very rough. I was, I 6'2", like 160 pounds soaking wet. These guys were all muscles. I was getting beat up every single day. I wasn't in the best of shape. I didn't know what to expect when it came to the conditioning. I was just, I was the low man on the totem pole. And so my first year, I ended up quitting, just because I just wasn't in the right headspace. And so that summer, I went home, talked with my family and just, discussed my options. And one of my options was to leave Lewis and Clark and go to a junior college back home. And I just loved Lewis and Clark, and I couldn't do that. And so that summer, I got the itch again. I missed basketball, and I was able to get myself into as good a shape as I could, and as good as athleticism as I could compared to those guys. And I came back, and the next 4 years were magical. I actually did 4.5 years at Lewis and Clark, so I could finish my senior basketball season. Um, and that's one of the big memories was just being able to grow as a person through the program. Another one that I always think about, and I try to remind our players this, is I don't really remember much from like wins and losses and record. What I do remember is just the times with my guys, in the locker room, on bus trips, eating after games. And it sounds cliche. I think every like coach kind of has this same spiel on that you'll remember the memories more than like the wins and losses, but it's 1,000% true. And a lot of these guys are still some of my best friends today. I've been in a couple of their weddings, and I'm excited for what the decades bring with those guys.
I always called it old guy advice, and it always seemed to come true. And so it sounds like that struck with you as well. And I had the opportunity to meet you when my first stint at Lewis and Clark, building PioStream, kind of the template into what it is today. And while you're playing hoops on the men's basketball side, you have a nationally ranked women's team with your now head coach of the women's basketball program, Christina Williams. What was it like to see the success the women's basketball program was having, and including an All-American outcome for Christina?
It was amazing. I had a nickname for her every time I would see her. I'd call her MVP, um, just because she was just that good. I try to, tell our players just how good she was, and it's hard to like, really relay that without seeming like I'm lying. She was amazing. She, not only her, but the coaching staff was great. The whole program was just so, their chemistry seemed to be so amazing. They gelled so well. They always seemed like they were in great moods, and seemed like they were really, getting every ounce of talent that they could out of each player. Um, it was really fun to watch. I mean, I rarely saw them lose. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit jealous, because they were always winning, and there was times when we were so. Um, and so I loved going to their games, because I knew that I was going to see some great basketball. Um, I don't know, they were just a blast to watch, and it was awesome to see them take the top of the NWC multiple years and go on to the national tournament. Christina was, she was exactly what the nickname was, MVP.
It's been a pleasure to get a chance to catch up to you, and it was great to get to know you at that time. And I will admit, as good of memories as you just shared, and as good as the women's team was, you probably were hair MVP at one point during the course of the men's basketball stint, right? I mean, you had some
Yeah,
pretty good locks.
I had some good locks. They weren't that bad, and I kind of forgot that I had them until you sent me that photo the other day. Of it was probably a good, I don't know, I'd say I had about 8 inches of lettuce up there.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, you were rocking the hair. You did also mention too, and this is important whenever we talk about basketball in the city of Portland. You mentioned the Trailblazers, and probably is not the most ideal time to talk about things because more injuries going after Portland. But what is it like when elaborate in a sense? The chance to get to see such a great player like Damian Lillard and the Rose Garden, now the Moda Center, a basketball city. Kind of what's your take with what the Trailblazers bring?
Well, I think it's for anyone that's interested in basketball. Like if you are a potential PIO that wants to join the women's or men's basketball program, you're coming to a great basketball city. And I think it starts with the Portland Trailblazers. The fan base is, great, super supportive. The players are in the community. You will often, pre-COVID and post-COVID, you'll see Blazers come to our gym and work out. I was lucky enough my roommate PJ Taylor is best friends with Damian Lillard, and Drake Green was also in that group before he left Lewis and Clark. And so, I got to meet Dame when he got drafted. He came to stay at our house. And so, it was awesome to see that unfold and see, my buddies get to celebrate him, and he's really taken over the city. Personally, I'm a, obviously a Blazer homer, but I think Dame is probably if not the best, one of the best leaders in the NBA. And I think, his leadership is just as good as his skills are. I think he just is top notch when it comes to that. And so it's been cool to be able to, watch that up close. The other thing that's cool is I've got to go to some games with our soccer coach, Jim Tersey. And that's been the highlight of my time here in Portland, going to those games. We've seen some really spectacular games. And when you go to games with Coach Tersey, he's a celebrity. Everyone's saying hi to him. So it's been a real blast. I feel lucky to be working in a city that has a team like the Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah, absolutely. Bigger than basketball, what Dame brings to the city of Portland. And someday, when you're not using the seats, I guess I'll try to go with Terse to one of those games. Scott Pisapia, it's an absolute pleasure to get to talk to you again. I miss seeing you around campus and eager to do so as soon as we can safely. Scott Pisapia, thanks so much for joining us on lcpioneers.com live.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.
A lot of fun. Yeah, Scott's a great person and brings a lot to that coaching staff with the women's basketball program at Lewis and Clark. And I'm kid you not, I actually meant to try to get the picture pulled up, but we showed some images of Scott playing with at least the shorter hair. And Scott was a great person to me and to the basketball program back in the early 2010s when we started the Pio stream that you see now when we have games. And hopefully we'll see sooner than later. But I saw the likes of Jessica Cerny, one of Scott's players in the chat, and it's just great to see a chance to catch up with Scott and see how he's holding up. It's got to be tough with football and both basketball programs not getting to compete this academic year and losing such a great player like Hannah Martin, a great person, not just a student athlete, but a great person to that program. But it was great to hear Scott, highlight what Hannah's brought to the program, and look forward to being able to follow up and see what Hannah does with her future for sure. We have no more shows this week. We don't have a guest lined up for tomorrow, so we'll jump ahead and preview next week. Bridget Flaherty will join us. We'll talk about the department that Bridget works with on the international side of things with Lewis and Clark. That's one of the aspects of the show that I've really enjoyed, is bringing in guests from outside of athletics and hear how they work with the college and work for the college to provide an excellent student experience and some of the aspects that do impact our student athletes over the 4 years when they choose to compete for the Pioneers. And then Ian Sheppel will join us for men's swimming coming up next Friday. We should have one more show added in there as well. Of course, if you miss any of our shows, you can find us youtube.com/LCPios. So until we see you again for those shows, I'm Ryan Goff. Big thanks again to Scott Pisapia and you for watching, and we will see you again soon for more of LCPioneers.com live, presented by PioStream, Tuesday through Friday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. Until then, goodbye, everybody. Thanks so much.
I'm Ann Bentley. I'm an associate professor of chemistry, and in this research group, I supervise the 2 students working in the Rogers program this summer in our lab. The brown bag experience is a good chance for students to get experience presenting their work that they've done in the lab, especially to an audience that's not technical.
What's intriguing about the brown bag experience is it incorporates all of the Rogers program. So I'm able to hear people in the psychology department and what research they're doing, but it also gives us the opportunity to share our research with the greater science community at Lewis and Clark. And for incoming students, the summer program is really beneficial for getting opportunity in research. So I've had the opportunity for research in the past, but other students may not have the same opportunities. So it's nice to work in a professional lab setting and potentially have the opportunity to publish a paper, which looks really good moving on into doing professional research out in the field.
The students grow a lot during the summer in their ability to learn the techniques and apply the techniques and suggest their own ideas for what could come next and interpret their data. It's just a big, usually if they haven't done research before, they learn a lot in that short period of time.
I think everyone should take Intro to Chemistry because the chemistry department here is phenomenal. Everyone I've known has had a good experience with everyone in that department, so I think it's a worthwhile course to take.
What is one class that everyone should take at Lewis and Clark? I really enjoyed Education in a Complex World. You kind of get to discuss all the issues that exist within education today, and you get to kind of explore that by going to classrooms firsthand and volunteering with children, which I thought was a really wonderful experience.
One class that everybody should take at Lewis and Clark is anything with Kundai Chirindo. I think he definitely changed how I thought about rhetoric and media studies and just education in general.
For me, it was International Affairs, just Intro to International Affairs, because I think it really gives a good perspective on important issues around the world.